Welcome to the Drunken Upholsterer. In this edition, we're going to show you how to make a cushion, a seat cushion. And we're using this wicker chair as an example, but you can use these techniques on stuffed chairs or sofas or just about anything. It's all applicable. There's a couple things, just for this one, but generally most of the techniques are transferable. All right, let's get started. You're going to need a pen and a paper, a tape measure, and a straight edge. And if you're like me, you're going to need a beer. So, there, we'll get started on this. So the straight edge you're going to need in this particular chair is to give you a line, because you have posts and it's kind of like you don't know exactly where things are going to end and where they're going to go. So you put your straight edge against the uprights of the arm and the back, and then you're going to make a little mark there, and that gives you that front to rear mark. Then you slip your straight edge in the back, and you're going to mark it on that side there and on that side there, and that gives you the back where you're going to end. And you do the same on this side to get your other side. And then you want to draw a little diagram of what you're doing here. And these first figures are finished figures, what the cushion is actually going to finish at. The second figures, which we'll talk about later, are the cut figures. So you're going to make a little simple diagram, and we'll measure the back, and it's roughly 18 inches, and the front to rear is again almost 18 inches, so you've got two 18s, and then across the front you're looking at 19 and a half. These are finished figures. You want to make sure you keep them separated. So if you transfer these to what you're going to cut at, you're going to have to add the seam measurements. I add roughly an inch. My seams are roughly half an inch. So the 18 would become a 19. The 18 front to rear would become a 19. And the front figure would become a 20 and a half. All right. And one other thing you got to know is the box. And this lady wants a 3-inch cushion. So the box, you're going to cut it roughly an inch over the thickness of the foam. I like to make it slightly under so that it doesn't look so square. It pulls down the edges so it looks a little neater, a little nicer. So if we were going to have a 3-inch foam cushion, I would probably finish it at 2 3/4. So if I was going to cut it, I would cut it at 3 3/4, because I'm adding an inch to the 2 3/4, which will get taken up in the seam. All right, and when you do a zipper, you add another inch to the box, so that would be 4 3/4. It's easier to say 5, and then you're going to make 2 strips at 2 1/2 each side of the zipper. So it'll be 2 1/2 by whatever. The back is 19. You want to come around the corner at least 3 inches on either side, so somewhere around 25 inches in length. And then the box, you're going to have to get, let's see, 1938, 48, 58, about roughly 60 inches a box. And you may obviously going to have to use a couple of pieces. Most fabric's 54 wide, so you'll have to add on to that. And you want to have enough box also to make a little pocket for the zipper. And I'll just add that on there. All right, so the next thing to do is cut this fabric up, and I'll show you how to cut it and measure it on the cutting table. So let's cut, and we'll go over there to cut. All right, welcome to the cutting portion of the cushion. When you start out, you want to make sure you have good straight lines that are square to the fabric, especially if you have a pattern, and especially if you have stripes. This just being a plain piece, it's not hugely critical, but you still want to be good and straight across the front and square up the side, so all your measurements are going to be accurate. And this cushion tapers into the back, so you want to make sure going up the side is square to across the front. Well, this fabric, as you can see, isn't straight, so I've used my square. I've gone along the side edge, got it pretty much as square as I can do. Now I have a rotary cutter. Otherwise, you're going to mark it with some kind of a marker and then cut it with your scissors or whatever you use. But I'm just going to cut this while I got it there, and then I'm going to take my box of rocks, which holds that end of the straight edge from moving, and I'll cut across the front. All right, so we've got a pretty good straight cut there, and while it's good and accurate, you want to make your cushion cut instead of cutting like your box or cutting your cording or something like that, because those can be awful to hair and you don't have to worry about it. So we're at our front is going to be here, and the back is going to be at the top of the fabric. We're looking to do 20.5 in the front, so that is going to be our first measure. So from the corner here, I'm going to measure over 20.5, and I'll mark it. And I want to get my center here as well, which is 20.5. Half of that is 10.25. So I've got my center there, and we're going to be cutting 19 inches up. Okay. And in order, because this line is straight and this and square to here, we could just measure over 10.25 at the back line, and that gives us the center of the fabric in the back, which is only going to be 19 inches. So we're looking at 9.5 would be halfway there. So we'll mark it at that corner. And we want to be 19, so we're over here. And that gives us our two corners, because this is an angled cushion. And you could also use this to get your center. You could put it along there and it would center up to the back. You can see there's the mark and there's the mark. Oh man, this is rough. A lot of thinking. So anyway, we'll make our angle cut. And there again, if you're using scissors, just strike the line with whatever marking system you have. So I've got that angle cut there. And we'll cut the back here. And get the other angle cut here. We go right to the front corner, to that mark. All right. Now theoretically, these should be perfect measurements, but somehow it never works out that way. So in order to get your stitching and the corners to line up on your cushion, you could take and flip that first one you cut over and lay it out onto the face-to-face onto the fabric. now when you cut it, you've got two mirror images. So if you're off a little bit, they're still going to line up, which is very helpful. So I'll take my box of rocks, or my can of rocks, and put them on there so it doesn't move on me. And give it a cut. And give it a cut. That, in theory, should be just fine. And there we go. They're all lined up nice. If you need to find a center to locate, like the zipper or the box, you can fold them in half. Pinch it in there and take your scissors or whatever and just nip off a little thing, and you got your center. You can also use those center points to help align while you're stitching it together as well. This is for the zipper. You're going to try to center the zipper in the back so you have equal amounts of the zipper going around each corner. Okay, we've got our two faces. So we're good there. And now we need, right in the wastebasket. Now we need some boxing. And you could cut your cording now. If you, I have some welt cord already made up, which I'm going to use, so I won't cut that, but I will cut the boxes and the zipper. And now I'm not being as particular, but I'm going to cut that selvage off of there. And we've decided 3-inch foam in there, and we are going to cut it at 3 3/4, which is slightly less than 1 inch over, so it'll compress a little. And you can also use these figures if you're cutting foam fresh, you don't have it. You can use these to cut it, because you always get your foam a hair over, you know, 1/2 inch to 1 inch over, so it fills out the cushion. So you've got to continue this straight line here, and I'll just kind of line it up with the previous cut. And that's done. And then we need 3 3/4 for the box. And we need approximately 60 inches, and you can see that the fabric is only going to work out to like 56, so we're going to have to cut a little bit extra, but we could cut it out of the other piece there that we have. Take my can of rocks, which is very helpful when you work alone. It's an extra hand. And we'll cut the selvage off here. And what you want to do is mark the top of the fabric so you don't get mixed up when you're sewing. Doesn't much matter with this particular fabric, but if this had a pattern or was a velvet, so I always mark it with the chalk on the top of it. The faces, I didn't do that because they are angled to the back, so it's fairly obvious. But I will do that anyway, because sometimes when you're sitting at the machine, it's a lot easier just to pick it up and see a nice white mark. Makes it much easier to determine where the back is. So we've got the box, got the faces, and now we need the zipper. The zipper is made up of 2 pieces that are going to be stitched to the zipper in the middle, and they're going to be 2.5 inches. And they're going to be 25 inches long. And this is going to give us a little more than we need, but we could cut them to fit. All right, same thing. You want to mark the top. And let's see, how long is it going to be if we have it? It's going to be 28 inches instead of 25. Well, that's pretty close. Works for me. How about you? All right, so we'll just cut that in half and we'll use it like that. Okay. And there we go. We got our two pieces there. Got our faces, we got our box, and if I was cutting cording, I would take my little thinner straight edge and I would make my cording cut at about 1.5 inches roughly for single welting. But like I said, I have some stuff I'm going to use already, and it's taken care of. Okay, so got all our pieces. We're ready to go. Next step, go to the sewing machine and have a little break. We'll see you there.